What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Celtics Daily with me, Mike Zakarian, and pat yourselves on the back. That's right, we hit that sweet 2,000 subscriber number. Really do appreciate everybody, just hanging around for the journey as we continue to grow. And we're doing this without any real Celtics news. This is just grit and grind, baby. We're out there reading the tea leaves and getting ready for a new NBA season. So if you are new and not a part of the 2K yet, get involved. Get into the chat. We got a fun one for you today. We got a couple little speculative stuff. Peyton Pritchard was talking to the media, which was great. We've got some bet on yourself candidates, and then of course we'll get into some of your comments at the end of the video, which is a reminder, get involved in the comments today. So let's get started. My guy Mike Weisberg, shout out to Weisberg. He sent me a DM yesterday after we were talking about those garbage Sam Amico reports about Anthony Simons potentially getting traded to Denver, which wouldn't make mathematical sense at all, or the 76ers, which doesn't make theoretical, mathematical, intelligent. It doesn't make any sort of sense. But Weisberg sent me over a fun little one with a guy that we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks, and that's Malik Monk. So for those not paying attention, not in the know, or, just enjoying your life and not reading all these different basketball reports, for whatever reason, the Sacramento Kings have decided Malik Monk cannot be on their team. They are aggressively trying to move Malik Monk from the Kings. Why? I don't know. Do they have a point guard? Not really. I guess you could make the argument that Malik Monk's not a point guard, but right now, they're starting. I don't know what their starting five looks like. Maybe Monk starts. Maybe Monk comes off the bench. They have Dennis Schroeder over there. They've got Keon Ellis, who they really like, who I really like too. Keon Ellis, like a really good on-the-ball defender. His offensive game is as erratic as it gets, mostly non-existent, but every once in a while it shows up. Then they've got the Chicago Bulls duo and DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, which if I had to put my tinfoil hat on, I would assume that one of them probably isn't there by the end of the season, with my guess being DeMar DeRozan, since financially he's a lot easier of a contract to take on than somebody like Zach LaVine, who I still can't get this out of my head, where a Twitter account basically compared Jaylen Brown and Zach LaVine's game to being the same. And this, I wasn't planning on doing this, but I mentioned Zach LaVine's name, and then like the snowflake I am, I was triggered, because that is just one of the worst comparisons. Like, sure, Zach LaVine, offensive, like when Zach LaVine is healthy and on, offensive juggernaut. Jaylen Brown is like historically healthy, just always on the court, always ready to go. Jaylen Brown, I would say a better rim attacker. LaVine, a better three-point shooter. But like the comparisons are like, oh, well, Jaylen Brown, you can't trust Jaylen Brown not to turn the ball over. And Zach LaVine turns the ball over more than Jaylen Brown does in his career. Anyways, I'm sorry. I digress. But anyway, so this Kings team, right, they still have Sabonis there too, but just like a lack of identity. Doug Christie still coaching the team, right? Mike Brown, the guy who got fired halfway through the year, he's with the Knicks. They sent De'Aaron Fox to the Spurs. Like, I don't know what they're doing. And so, like, on paper, this trade, I don't think it's that great for the Sacramento Kings, but Sacramento Kings famously like to make trades that don't make sense on paper. That's kind of their thing. Remember, Halliburton and Fox were on the same team for a little while? Anyways, here we go. In this deal, the Celtics would bring over, they'd get Malik Monk and then Isaac Jones. Isaac Jones has like $1.9 million 1 year with a team option, and then Malik Monk, we've talked about his contract, $18.7 million this year, 3 years to go, right? So this would, like the tax base that this would be, they'd be saving a little bit of money here, long term adding some money, right? Because Simon's $27 million, but just this year, where Monk you're getting $18.7, and then you get him for a couple more years. And so obviously I didn't finish the trade. The Kings would receive Simons here, so it's Monk, Isaac Jones, whatever, throw in to make it work for Anthony Simons. This works cap related. Like this financially, this makes sense for both teams. Like the trade would be allowed to go through. I am a Monk believer. I know Simon's on paper for sure a better player. He is like Simon, or I shouldn't say a better player, but better stats, right? And just to recap here, I'll throw some numbers at you. Simon's last season averaged 19 points, 2 boards, almost 5 dimes a game, shooting 42% from the field, 36% from the three, 90% from the line. I should note he's a 38% career three-point shooter. But anyways, solid season for Simons last year. When we look at Monk, but again, a different role, because if you look at the other guys, playing with Simons versus playing with Monk, you understand. But Monk last season, 17 points, 4 boards, almost 6 dimes, 43% from the field, 32% from three, 86% from the line. And then just a reminder, in 23-24, he was one of the clutch player of the year finalists. He also finished, I believe, second in sixth man of the year voting. And then the year before that, finished fifth in sixth man of the year voting. So, like, again, I think these players are pretty comparable. I think they do similar things. I think it is nice to know, like, if they were to keep somebody like Malik Monk around for a couple of years, I do think he makes sense as somebody coming off the bench for this team when they're ready to compete now. I don't know how much of a difference maker he is this year in 25-26, but I do kind of like the idea of having him, because he's a good playmaker. We've seen him do that when Fox had been sitting or missing time. He was able to step in. We've seen him take over games too. I think when you have to rely on him to play 30 plus minutes a game, it gets a little shakier, but I would make that same argument about Anthony Simons. But really the reason this works for the Celtics, I think, is because, and we've talked about it at length. I'm sure you guys are getting annoyed about it because I know you're big Simons fans, but it was brought up in the chat yesterday too. The issue with Simons that we run into, it's a one-year rental. I don't think Anthony Simons wants to, he's making $27 million this year. I don't think he wants to go into next season making less than $27 million, right? I think he's hoping for some sort of payday. I think at the very least, he's looking for some, 3-year, $25 million, maybe with a fourth player option, something like that. That's the very least he's looking for. I don't know where he's going to get it, but if he does get it, right, the Celtics can't afford that. Where Monk, you're getting him sub $20 million for the next few years as to be like a potential 6 man of the year candidate. You could argue for sure that some of these skills overlap what we already have with Peyton Pritchard, but again, I mean, that's also true for Anthony Simons. It's a little bit more of a long-term solution. Again, I don't know if the Kings would do something like this, but I do think it makes sense on the Celtics end. So shout out our guy Weisberg for throwing that to the chat there yesterday. That was very helpful. But yeah, Simons or Monk, I don't know. Let me know. I think a lot of people are going to side with Simons, and I get it. I think Simons, I believe, a little bit younger, right? How old's Malik Monk actually? I don't have that in front of me. Malik Monk. Here is, let's see, how long has he been in the league? I don't know why it's not telling me he's 27. Actually, that's a little bit younger than I thought. 27 out of Kentucky, baby. And what's Simon's age? Simons is a little bit younger, right? Simons is 20. Actually, they're very close in age, just a year apart. So, I don't know. Where do you guys land on that? Simons or Monk? Simons or Monk? Let's get into some Peyton Pritchard. And I got to tell you, I think Peyton Pritchard has been looking at your chat. He's been looking at the chat, and he said, you know what? Bet, I'm with you. I'm with you on this. He had a great piece, interview with Noah Dazelle, where he was talking about just like his offseason, what he's looking forward to this season. And here's a couple of quotes with him. Peyton Pritchard does not see next year as a gap year. He said, it's a year to prove something. Take a step and show people that we are still that team. We come out and compete and try to win every game and go for a championship. He also had some great comments too about the Pritchard Simons debate that we've been having for 3 months now, right? Who is the starting point guard? And there was a great quote because when Noah brought that up to him, he said, it doesn't matter to me. A lot of things can change in a year. You can start a couple of games. You cannot. For me, it's about controlling what I can control. And that's coming into games and changing the game and being an unbelievable player and helping my team win. So that's the only thing I'm focused on ever. It's not about accolades. It's not about starting or anything like that. It's about how can I become the best player possible. I don't know. Is that just saying the right thing, to look good? Maybe. Does it make me want to get a tattoo of Peyton Pritchard on my arm? Yeah. Yeah, it does. That's got me fired up. Man, I'm so excited for him this season. I really do. I think he's going to build off what we saw last year. And some people have said his minutes are tapped out or his numbers are tapped out. We're not going to see anything more than that. Let's just go over some of it, man. He played 80 games last year. 80 games. Heading into last year, his career averages were 7 points a game. He averaged 14 points a game, 4 rebounds a game, and 3.5 assists on 47% shooting, 40% from three, and 84.5% from the line. And I do think a lot of people will be like, oh, wow, he shot 40% from three. That was on 8 attempts a game. He was basically going 3 for 8 every single game. His highest volume prior to that was 4 3-pointers a game. He basically doubled his 3-point volume played 28 minutes per game. I really do think like there could be an argument to be made that like yes, Peyton Pritchard, if he is starting or even if he's not starting, is going to be getting a lot more attention on the defensive end because you're taking away guys like Tatum, Drew, Porzingis, and Al. It's going to be a little bit harder for him to do stuff, especially if some of these younger guys aren't going to pick up the slack. I'm still a believer, though. I really am. The more I talk about it, the more in the bag I sound, and I get it. But I just think we can see him expand a little bit more. And I do think the efficiency goes down. I think 40% from three on 8 a game. That's real like elite 3-point shooting. I think that probably comes down a little bit, and we might even see him go something like 4 for 11, something like that. I could see him take even more shots, but some of these shots are going to be a little bit more challenging. Where I'm most excited to watch Peyton Pritchard this upcoming season is how he evolves as a facilitator and a playmaker. I think that is going to be the thing. If he is able to juice that up a little bit, become more of a point guard, because I'll be honest, like we call him a point guard. We call him a point guard because he can dribble the ball and because he's under 6 feet tall. That's why. Actually, I don't know if he's under 6 feet tall. What do they have him? I don't want. He's 6'1". Excuse me, Peyton. My apologies. I just want you to be a short king like myself. But because we see the size, we're like, oh, he's a point guard. That's not what he does, man. He comes in and he's a flamethrower, and I think he addressed it himself. Like he comes in to impact the game, whether he's starting or not. He's just in there to like change the flow of the game, and that's what he does. That is what he does. But I think if he is able to evolve a little bit as a facilitator, as a playmaker, whether it's in the pick and roll, which I think he already does a decent job at now. But if he's able to find the open guy a little bit more and just like run an offense instead of just coming in like shout out Katy Perry and being a firework, just like going nuts, hitting a half court shot, getting an offensive rebound and a putback, something like that. If he's able to actually like find guys, get an offense moving, and lead this team alongside Jaylen Brown and Derek White and hold up defensively. I'm not saying all defense or anything like that, just hold up. If he's able to do that, I do think there is a world where the Celtics team is able to overachieve a little bit more. But I think a lot of it, like, we know what we're going to get from Jaylen Brown. We know what we're going to get from Derek White. Like, I think the real X factors of this team is, like, how long is Simons there and what can he do? Can Peyton Pritchard evolve? And then, like, playing whack-a-mole with the big men. Like, what big man is going to step up and do something? Is it Boucher, who my favorite thing about Chris Boucher so far is it Stooley Dan Greenberg, right, from Barstool, who I think was like, oh, I'm excited about the young big. And it's like, well, Boucher's 32. But is it him getting a chance to actually play, not meaningful, but like more minutes compared to what he was doing in Toronto, where he was kind of, in the rotation, out the rotation, right? Like, what is Boucher going to be able to do? Luka Garza with minutes. What is he going to do? Is Neemias Queta, which, by the way, I think this starts tomorrow. Eurobasket starts tomorrow, and I think Queta is our only guy playing. So if you need something, right? If we're not getting enough news, enough breaking news, enough Celtics slop, go watch Queta play for Portugal, right? There's some Eurobasket for you. Also, all of like the big guns are playing. Giannis is playing for Greece, Luka for Slovenia. The French team looks nuts. Franz Wagner over in Germany. Porzingis, listen, if you need to like pour one out for KP, he's out there for Latvia balling out as well, along with Davis Bertans. But anyways, so Queta playing for Portugal will be fun. But anyway, the Pritchard comments got me exciting. Of course, he's not going to say it's a gap year, right? That would be, career suicide if he was out there just being like, well, I think we're actually going to suck this year. Of course he's not going to say that, but it did. I don't know. I think he is like an X factor for this season. And I think his range of outcomes are wild, from being disappointed and being like, oh, this guy can't be a starter, to like him making an all-star team. I think that's within the range of outcomes. Shout out the Eastern Conference for being an ass. That's why he's got a shot at that. Speaking of ass, Malik Beasley's ass has been saved. For those that weren't following along, there was maybe a month stretch. Pablo Torre finds out, did a video where it seemed like Malik Beasley was just screwed. He was the target of a federal investigation and involving sports betting, and then all the clips coming from him like getting his own rebound in a garbage time getting a free throw rebound with time running out in garbage time. He just sprints down the floor and throws a dunk down to cover the spread, right? And everybody just kind of assumed he was guilty. And then the federal investigators came out and said he's no longer a target. And so Malik Beasley went from, because before that announcement, he was about to get a massive extension from the Detroit Pistons. I shouldn't say massive, but he was about to get a big old payday. And then instead, this investigation comes out. He doesn't get any offers. And then all of a sudden, Now he's out there as a free agent, and I do think like if the if we had to bet on it, Malik Beasley most likely goes back to Detroit. I think the Pistons have the most flexibility, even though they did bring in Duncan Robinson and Karis LeVert. They still have some cap flexibility, and I believe they can pay him the most out of everyone else. And if you've been following the Malik Beasley story, it's pretty important that he gets a big payday. But I just wanted to like throw some Beasley stuff out there for you. Right now, well, this past season, excuse me, he went 4 for 10 from three. We were talking about Pritchard shooting 40% on volume. Beasley, even more, 10, and he was taking 15 field goal attempts a game. 10 of them were all threes. He finished, I believe, was it second in sixth man of the year voting behind Peyton Pritchard. Played all 82 games. I mentioned going 4 for 10 from three. Was averaging like 27 minutes a game. I think Beasley would make more sense on the Celtics if he was like a last piece, right? If Tatum was there and you're like, well, let's go get another three-point shooter so we don't have to rely on Sam Hauser to be the big bench guy. But I'm fascinated to see where he goes. I think if Detroit's not willing to give him, big money, he could kind of go anywhere for like another 1-year deal to try to show that he could still do that. I think it's such a weird spot to be in after having all, right or wrong, have your dirty laundry aired in the manner that it was. That, I mean, I imagine it's going like a lot of organizations will, pause before giving him a big deal. Which then all of a sudden that goes from like, you're not going to pay him a lot, but then he becomes a massive value if you get him at a vet min. It's just kind of, it's a weird spot. I do think he still lands in Detroit, but I wouldn't be surprised if Boston dangled it a little bit, right? Dangled it a little bit if you got him on a deal. But curious what people's thoughts are on Beasley. Just wanted to throw that in there as I saw an update on Malik. And then last but not least, let's get to some of your comments. But do me a favor, hit the subscribe before you get on out of here. There's no reason to stop at 2K subs. Let's go to 3K. Let's just do it. Let's get to some of your comments from yesterday. There were some good ones. Again, I always appreciate them. There was a lot of Walker Kessler stuff. I got a long one from Darren Anderson, and I'm gonna mention it here because I'm gonna say the whole thing because I thought it was good. Darren says the ideal scenario, if the Celtics want to get under the cap and also compete, is 2 separate trades of the 2 players we've talked about, trading Sam Hauser and Anthony Simons. You trade Hauser and a first to the Jazz for Walker Kessler. I feel like it's gonna have to be 2 firsts, but okay. So it'd be Hauser and a first to the Jazz for Walker Kessler. He gives you the starting center for now and the future. And as you said, maybe $25 million a year. That's probably what he's worth. Hopefully that's what the number is. Simons, he says, you trade to the Chicago Bulls for Nikola Vucevic. Shout out Montenegro. This gives us a true backup center, but lets Boucher play the more natural power forward. I think calling Boucher a natural power forward is generous. Also sets up signing Vuce next year, maybe to a team-friendly deal. And just to pause for a second, I actually don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I know people aren't excited about Vuce Mane here as his numbers have been declining a little bit, but he has made decent money in his NBA career, and he hasn't played playoff basketball since, remember when he was on those Orlando Magic teams where they'd be the 8th seed, and I think they'd play either Toronto or Milwaukee in the first round every year for 4 straight years, and they'd always win game 1 and then they'd lose 4 straight after that. But he hasn't played playoff basketball in a while, and if he does want to take a cheaper deal just to be on a competitive team, I love the idea of him as a backup big moving forward. But anyways, these 2 trades also get $11.4 million off the books, getting us under the limit. Then our issue becomes needing a point guard, so we either trade Tillman, which I don't know if anybody's trading for Tillman, but he said the free agent he's going for is Markelle Fultz. And this is, again, one of those moments where I was nodding my head, this is a great comment. I love this. Yes, let's go. And then he was like, Markelle Fultz, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm here for Markelle Fultz, but I like where this thought was. I appreciate it. NBA update was kind of with me. He said Danny Ainge will want 2 or more first-round picks for Walker. I do. I think you're gonna need a couple of them. We got another young big that was thrown in there from Mikey Spags. He said, "How about this trade?" He says Boston gets Zach Edey and Santi Aldama, who I love Aldama, by the way. Memphis gets Anthony Simons, Baylor Shireman, and 2 second-round picks. I think the Grizzlies value both of those guys more than you think. I do. I mean, I do think Simons makes sense on Memphis, especially after they lost Bane. But I mean, they value Zach Edey way more than that. I think they picture him as a big of the future. The only way I see them moving off Zach Edey is if they're because I believe he had an ankle surgery and he's going to miss the start of the season. If Edey is like, if they think he's going to be a health concern long term, that's the only way I see them trading. So I hear what you're saying. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. Lambo Palooza said, I love listening to the show after work every day, but a horrendous take on NBA Centel. I didn't know we had some Centel fans, but I love it. Let me see if there was one more that we could get into. One more comment. Too Generic says, Celtics are the balls. Celtics are the balls, baby. And I think that's the right way to end today's show. Appreciate everybody tuning in and hanging out. Hit the subscribe on the way out. We will see you tomorrow with some more Celtics slot. All right, we're out of here.